So I have my wife, I go, honey, you got to take Wyatt hunting. He wants to go hunting opening day. She's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, you got to take him. Do I have it? Oh, yeah, I got it.
Is
So
she now? She's not as experienced as you, obviously, but she has enough experience to take him, or.
Well, we thought she was going to be okay field dressing because she did a bunch of field dressing videos. But after my son shot it, she got to it and was like, what everybody does, like, what do I do now?
So last week we actually had a little argument over how we were going to do commercials for this podcast, and some people wanted them pre-recorded and then splice them in later, and other people just wanted to do them like I always do them. So we decided to pre-record them and splice them in, and of course they forgot to get spliced in, so there was no commercials, and we're probably going to lose all our sponsors from last week, and this is the last episode of the podcast, just in case it isn't. The fishing has been exceptionally well on Merrill Creek Reservoir and Round Valley. That type of fishing is like a very specialized fishing. If you want to troll, you need a lot of lead core, a lot of different rods. The guys that do it, they have specific setups. Pretty much the boat is built out just to troll for these trout and salmon. Mike Herman basically has that entire thing set up. Yellow Dog paddle. You don't have to go out and spend $3,000 on all kinds of trolling shit and downriggers like me and then find out if you like it or not. You could go out with Yellow Dog paddle and troll for the day, see how everything works, see how you like that kind of fishing. It's very different than Chris knows, because Chris doesn't even troll, but he's done it on my boat. It's very different, right, Chris?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I will do it in scenarios where it's the most effective means of catching fish, which on these two places for certain species, it definitely is. And I'll do it in my boat to some extent. So I can tell you firsthand, you can't really accomplish the extent of what you need to do unless you have the proper equipment, the proper boat, and the proper knowledge to do it. When I do it, it's somewhat effective. When I see these guys like Mike Herman at Yellow Dog Paddle doing it, it's different, and I haven't seen him in person yet, but we're definitely going to get out with him and see.
They seem more consistent than us. Like a salmon over 7 pounds basically the past 2 weeks in a row, and now this week another one over 6 pounds. Like the trolling guys are very consistent with putting up fish. Like we like to catch them. We like to catch them all different kinds of ways. So we'll purposely try different techniques. One day we'll troll, then we'll use slip bobbers, then we'll jig. But the trollers are just, the trollers. That's what they do. They're on the fish and they know what to run.
Yeah, and you can't argue. I mean, you can't argue with the recent consistency of success that Mike's been having out there.
Yeah, he's on fire.
He's putting up some awesome salmon.
If you're interested in doing that kind of reservoir trolling and going after those lake trout and those salmon and those big trophy trout with lead core and planer boards and downriggers, Yellow Dog Paddle. He's the guy to call. Hello and welcome to episode number 56 of the NJ Multi-Species Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Santiago, and always my partner, Chris Pereira.
Can you introduce me as Bobber Lovin' Chris Pereira?
So Bobber Lovin' Chris Pereira is here with me. All right. Right off the bat, RVTA. RVTA had a tournament. First place in Lake Trout was Matt Yanetta. Second place, Will Kimball. Third place, Ron DeGraff. And Rainbow Trout Division, first place was Terry Todd. Second place, Mike Herman. Third place, Kyle Hensler.
Was this the contest that Matt, you never caught that monster lake trout, or is this different?
No, that was the George A. Pilar.
Oh, okay.
That was like a side tournament. This was the first actual like tournament of the year for them, like the ones that count towards Fish Person of the Year.
And this one has no divisions. It's all just one straight. There's no like kayak division.
No, no. This is the six. It's one tournament a month for 6 months, and then they pick Fisher Person of the Year. Yeah. So other stuff that we saw in fishing news: smallmouth fishing continues to be really good around New Jersey. Gen Wan's caught a couple monsters now. John Grabagrani, he talked about a 60 fish day last week. So the smallmouth bass fishing is really good.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get on that. I've been doing other stuff, obviously, but yeah, if you can find them on a lake where the water temperature is right and they're in that mode and you're whacking them on jerk baits, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's what everyone is. A lot of people are talking about. Katie Lynn, I took her out for her first muskie, and she was successful, and we landed the muskie. That was pretty amazing to be there and actually see. Very high adrenaline. It was cool. That was just really cool.
You were freaking out, weren't you?
I wasn't really freaking out. I had one to the rail previous to this one, and I lost it. So that was 2 in a row lost to the rail. So I was kind of like discouraged.
Why were you were fighting the fish?
Nah, but I'm saying it's the second time. I had someone else on the boat 2 weeks ago and we lost one at the rail, and we had one on this time and it was lost at the rail again. So I was like, oh my God, man, this sucks. Like, you're not going to get that many chances, but luckily we got one more chance and we landed it. So that was cool.
Yeah, I'm sure she was ecstatic. It's pretty cool to get, knock that first species off. I think I could probably remember just about every first species catch for myself, except, the panfish are kind of a blur, but most other fish, I feel like I can remember the first one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she'll remember that. It was pretty cool. Max was like, Max tried really hard, like, to help me get her one. Like, he helped, like, facilitate a lot of the shit I had to do. But he was second on deck. Like, he was going to get the second muskie, but we never got one on for him. But hopefully,
has he caught one?
He never has. No, he was going to be number 2 if we could get a second one, but that didn't happen. But hopefully, we'll get Max one. But we called it Operation Longfish. It was successful. That was cool. We've been killing it night fishing. You guys went again last night. I didn't go because I was tired. How'd you guys do? I don't even know how you did.
Well, Max and Kevin are tired too. They complained the whole fucking time that it was their bedtime. No, it was. I know. You know what? I just want to say that some guys will shy away from spring bite, like night bite, when you get a cold front and you're on the back end of it. And I do the same thing, especially early spring. If there's a cold front, I'll shy away from targeting certain species that are real, picky with that. But I can tell you, the walleye did not seem to care that we were fishing the back end of a cold front. The hybrids, we didn't see a single hybrid. I don't think we heard maybe one or two. There wasn't really herring jumping around, but those walleye were there. Were right where you thought they were going to be, around the rocks and stuff. And yeah, they were biting. They came in waves. We had some dry times, but for the most part, it was pretty good. Just certain spots were dead and other spots were better. And
yeah, I'm yet to have a bad night fishing, except for Spruce Run one night, but I wasn't even really night fishing. I was day fishing, and I just stayed too late. But it's been good so far, basically every time. What else? Oh, Chris Lido, I talked to him. They did another 24-hour tile trip, which I don't know that much about. I want to do maybe an episode on tile fishing because it seems really cool. But he said they had 3 fish caught over 50 pounds on the trip. And I guess that's really, like I said, I don't know that much about tile fishing, but I guess that's like a really good trip to see 3 that big on one trip.
I mean, I know I've rarely seen pictures of tilefish that big. I personally have only gone once or twice. I think one time I don't think we caught anything. And these were tuna trips where, either the tuna fishing slow or on the way or after we hit the tilefish grounds, which are, I mean, you're talking. I don't know what the range is, but I think we were fishing like 600 feet. I don't know how shallow you can get them, but I think you're looking at least 400, 500 feet.
Yeah, we have to see
shallowest.
if we could do a tile fish episode. I know that's like Eddie Mackin's father, Bunker Dunker. That's like his bread and butter is tile fishing. It's like his favorite fish to pursue.
Really? I would absolutely love to do it. I mean, I don't know that much about it. I've only caught, I think I caught 1 or 2. I guess they were be considered regular sized ones, they were like 20, 24 inches, maybe like this, 23 inches. I don't really remember, but they do taste delicious.
Before I forget to mention it, the UPF fishing shirts, we now have them available on our website. They have this logo on the front and the Suffer for the Fish on the back. We left them at only $20, basically to make them just affordable to everyone, because we want people to wear them. And somebody posted on Facebook the other day that they saw either me or Chris on a lake, and they saw the shirt, but they were afraid to say hello. Like,
it was you.
It was me. Whatever. Don't ever be. You don't have to be afraid to say hello. If you see us, obviously it's North Jersey. If you fish, you're probably gonna see us. You don't have to be afraid of saying hello. And I actually got to speak to that guy, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, just you could say hi. It's
right.
No
So
big
you
deal.
knew it was you. Why were you saying it was me or you?
No, I didn't know which one of us he was talking about.
You just said you got to talk to him.
What do you mean?
You just said I got to talk to the guy.
I got to talk to him on Facebook now, like currently, not back then when in person when I saw him.
Okay, and what'd you say? Hey, did you see me?
No. I said, don't be afraid to say hi. Like, you could say hi. It's no problem. It's ridiculous. You're just a normal person.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Don't talk to me.
Okay, don't talk to Chris, but you can talk to me. It's no problem. But yeah, we made the shirts only $20 basically, so everyone could afford them. We're not trying to make money really on the shirts. We just want everyone to have one. They're basically like the same material that every other company uses to make the same fishing shirts. So, whatever.
Hey, I think it's one of those. I was surprised at how cheap, how inexpensive, we could put them on there. It's one of those. I think it's just one of those things where, like, if you buy a screwdriver, a regular screwdriver, it's a couple of bucks. If you buy a boat screwdriver, it's like 200% more.
Basically. Okay. The guest tonight is pretty interesting. We met the guest at the Deer Classic. He's actually like an inventor who's invented a bunch of stuff involving the outdoors, especially when it comes to kids. He has like a really deep interest for keeping kids involved with the outdoors. He's invented like knives that kids can use that they can't cut themselves with. Chris, what's his name? His last name?
I'm not totally sure how to pronounce his last name, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try Rick Damerau.
Rick Damerau. We met him at the dinner, same as we met the other previous guest we had on, Ed. So yeah, we invited him on. So let's see if we could get him on. So our next guest is here. His name is Rick Damerau. He's been hunting and fishing New Jersey for over 50 years. He's actually invented quite a few inventions geared towards getting the younger generation involved in the outdoor sport. Rick, we're happy to have you here on the NJ Multi-Species podcast tonight. Thank you for being here.
What's up, Rick? How you doing?
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, it was pretty cool to meet you at the Deer Classic with your buddy Ed. We had Ed on a couple of weeks ago. But what really jumped out at me from what you were telling us is all the different things you do to get, not only your son was there to win an award.
Yeah.
And I think Joe called him by the wrong name when he talked about it last time.
No, I didn't.
What would you say his son's name was?
I don't remember. What's your son's name?
Wyatt.
Yeah, Wyatt.
Yeah.
I think Joe called him Cody.
Right.
I might have called him Cody. Is there a Cody?
Cody's my daughter.
Oh, see, there is Cody.
Okay.
Right.
And she's a hunter as well.
All right, so that's fair.
Yeah.
I'll actually give Joe that one. I thought he just pulled the name
good.
Cody out of his ass and just threw it out there.
Now we have your license holder here, which is cool. Like, because everyone on Earth has the license holder that holds their license.
Yeah.
But this one, it's the exact same as every other one, but it has a light on it and it has a knife included with it.
Yep.
That knife, it was really cool. And thanks for Rick gave us a bag of all kinds of his stuff, and I already needed that knife twice. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I don't know how to describe it. You don't have one in your hand, do you, Joe?
I don't.
There you go. Rick has one.
There it is.
Yeah, very tiny plastic, very thin, very light, and there's just two super sharp razor blades on it, right? And there's a cover for it, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I threw it in the truck, like whatever. Couple weeks later, I had and this happened twice, 2 different times. The wires on my trailer while I was towing my boat before when I went to go pull out, one of the wires was just hanging off, like the connector just sheared off and it was just hanging there. And I actually used the little hook portion of that knife to, get the rubber off of the wire and expose the metal and like redo everything. So I already used it twice. It's pretty cool. It's super sharp, like razor sharp. And
you invented that knife, so that kids could field dress deer without.
Yeah.
cutting.
So there's a good and a bad about it. The good is that you're safe the whole time you're field dressing. So if you look at the knife itself, we used to do this at the shows, and I can stab myself in the hand all day long. If you look, there's like a little bird mouth on it, and we designed it so that a kid, when he's in there field dressing, doesn't have any problem. But it's a 0 point of resistance. So you talk about a razor blade, it's 10,000ths of an inch thinner than a razor blade. So there's 0 path of resistance. So if you look at the blade, I don't know if I can get it in the camera. There's no actual profile to the blade, so it doesn't taper. It's just straight military. It's a military blade. How we got a hold of it and had it processed, still beyond me that we were able to even do it. But yeah, it's an awesome. And again, it's one of those products that when it's in your hand, again, it's super safe. And then when you turn it around, again, you're not going to catch yourself on this blade when you're field dressing with the hook. So, yeah, we did a bunch of really cool stuff. The license holder, the rectifier, all geared towards youth tutorial. But there are some challenges with our knives on marketing side. And then the license holder, obviously, took on a different track just because most states now don't require licenses on the backs. We launched
New
the
Jersey
product.
still does.
We launched the product probably at the worst time in the collapse of all sporting goods stores. So,
wow, yeah. Then there's that.
It was like 10 years ago when we launched the product, a little bit over 10 years ago, and But we had some tutorial videos out there. We really hadn't supported them recently. But now that my son is 12, we're going to probably revisit some of that branding to get kids a little bit more willing, and adults. We used to have probably 150, 200 texts or emails on our YouTube channel on adults that just didn't have a field dress anymore, or needed a refresher, because some guys will go 2, 3, 4 years before they shoot a deer or harvest a deer. So it's not just a youth tutorial. That field dressing process is, you boys are hunting now. It's a process. It's a big boy process.
Joe's been hunting for a while. I just started.
Okay.
So I haven't field dressed the deer yet. I've watched Joe do it, and I've watched some videos. I haven't done my first one yet. But to your point, even someone who hunts fairly regularly, if they also fish, they're only hunting so much. They're maybe only field dressing a deer, I don't know, if not 0 times because they're not successful a couple times, maybe once or twice a year. I mean, that's not enough, I don't think, over the course of a couple of years to ingrain it in your memory either. So it's not like those types of guys can't use refreshers too. But
so I during the process of developing the product, I field dressed probably about 200 deer a year.
Holy shit.
I was on speed dial for all my buddies. I shot 60 deer to field dress them.
Jesus.
With the bow.
Wow.
All with the bow, because I had to get video content that didn't have a lot of blood. So I had to make sure that there were really good, clean shots, either hard or double lung. So when we field dressed, the back end was clean. It didn't have blood and guts in there. And so it was, it was a challenge. But I consider myself a professional field dresser now.
I mean, I would.
Do you consider yourself an inventor?
Well, I mean, I do a lot of different products, so I've been involved in the process of not only on the hunting side. I'm more of an entrepreneur, but I fell into the product development for the hunting, just need base. The license holder and the combination of the license holder with the knife, and then that little LED light was just stuff that I always forgot. So when I used to carry my license holder when I was a kid, I would keep a single blade razor in my license pack. So if for some reason my knife wasn't sharp, I used to just field dress them with a straight blade razor. And, that was more of a need-based development. It was something that I seemed to always forget. So we named the company Never Without, because you're never without. You got everything all there in the pack. And, again, on the track of product development and sales, unfortunately, the knife sale, we just stopped selling it. I still have production of it, and I have units of it. But we're gonna probably relaunch a little bit differently, as in far as like more of a tutorial aid, and doing that with our kids, like having them explain the process, and maybe have it be as simple as a YouTube video, and then waiting for the links to come off of that. Because, if you go into that YouTube channel and that space in field dressing, a lot of the guys just, they're a little bit disrespectful of the game, the process of field dressing, and even when we developed the product, you wouldn't believe, I worked all the shows, ATA, SHOT Show, Harrisburg at the time, even just hunters as a whole. They'd be like, "Oh, what is that? That's so stupid." And I'm like, "Hey, listen, man, it's here to help the kids out, help other people out." And that the Rectifier, we're actually redesigning that we're going to do it out of pressed flat steel instead of that. I gave you those, right? Did I give you those?
We each have one.
Yeah. So we're going to redesign that in stamped steel. So it'll be a flat stamped steel, very, a little bit more substantial and a little bit more, whereas in the guy's not going to look at it like a coat hanger, because that's, even throw a million video views on that product, guys are like, it's just I'm like, it's not really a coat hanger.
Yeah.
It's it's wire formed spring steel, and it works really well.
We had guys. I mean, we had a guy who had this special way of preserving baits down in like shrimps. He would preserve the shrimps and color it, and he made these products, and he sent us some to test. But guys, even with that, like, we saw the product. It was very interesting. It worked. It was awesome. You have guys commenting on there, no, I could go to the store and buy 20 pounds of salt and preserve my own shrimp. Like, okay, I'm sure that'll work exactly the same. You let us know how it goes. You cut the deer's rectum out with a coat hanger and video. Make sure you video it and send it to us.
Yeah.
We'd love to see how that works.
And I think, like, on the product development side, like, even like, the encouragements that I always had, everybody says you can't do anything, you can't make money in this industry, or you can't make money at developing products. Listen, it was a kid that I know through the hunting industry, and back when I was launching Never Without, he was also launching a small company called Montana Mappings, and Montana Maps went on to a couple other different names and reiterations of their name. They're the largest technology company in Bozeman, Montana at the time. I think it's Bozeman they're affiliated through. And they went on to be on X Maps, which every hunter probably in the country uses on X Maps. Eric Siegfried was the product developer there. And, he went on, again, need-based. He saw we needed access. We needed a process to be able to get land access. And he came up with the company, and he just pretty much tapped out, never having to work a day in life again. I mean, he's enjoying fishing and hunting now, and he's 38, maybe.
So the guy that made Onyx?
Yeah, Eric Siegfried. He's hauling them all the time out in Montana.
Wow.
He's an engineer guy, super bright, but he's living proof that the American dream in the sports of hunting still exists. I mean, it's hard to differentiate yourself as far as brand units, but he was a need-based guy. He saw the need, developed it, loaded. Forget what he told me. I think it was 50 to 80,000 SD cards for the GPS, the Garmin GPS trackers. He would do the little SD cards in his shed, literally like the success story of the technology. And that's really what happened with the product that we developed. I probably could have made really good money just on the YouTube channel itself, but we got shut down because at that time, that user space was doing that, where it was, you had to identify your age because they consider it sensitive material because it was field dressing gear. And I guess the blood and guts offended some YouTuber,
Oh, God.
So we got restricted. We got age restricted. So that the first 2 weeks we had our videos up, my wife was field dressing. My couple of my buddies were field dressing. I think we had 1 million hits in like 2 weeks. And then they put an age restriction on our YouTube channel, and things just kind of, I had another kid. So I will tell you guys what happens then,
Yeah. So basically you had this YouTube channel teaching kids how to do this, and adults, like you said, but kind of targeted towards kids, and they went and restricted it. They couldn't show it to kids. I mean,
yeah, it was, and at the time I didn't have the resources, I didn't have the knowledge now that I do now, and that's why with my son Wyatt, he unfortunately is allergic to deer dander.
Really?
So I have to have him in gloves field dressing. So, but he's gonna field dress. I mean, I'll get my daughter out and field dress, and we're gonna do some very professional, clean field dressing. It's as clean as field dressing can be. I mean, it's obviously, a challenge for everybody, but it could be simple and preserve the meat. The Rectifier, I mean, the whole reason why I developed the Rectifier was just to make sure that you didn't split the pelvic bone. Guys will go online. You go watch that YouTube channel, man. Those guys will rip me apart. Like, you don't need to do that. I'm like, yeah, you don't need to do it. But it just makes it easier when you have that tool. But I will say, I got a guy in Canada, because I listened to everybody back then. He had the best way to naturally field dress a deer without the rectifier. And I showed that video, like it was he cuts it across the top of the tail, and the way he did it, if I don't have my rectifier, that's the only way I do it. I only do it that way. And it takes out everything, the bladder, that whole internal area, and you don't have to split between the pelvic bone and expose your meat. So if you're like me, we eat venison. That's what we do in this house. This is what we do, fish and that kind of stuff. So we try to, at least if I'm eating it, I don't want it looking like some of these field dress deer that you see on videos or your friends. I'm like, what did you do to that deer?
Yeah.
I mean, and I gotta say, as being pretty new to it, only not even two years yet, I think the most intimidating part, to me at least, is not firing the weapon, accurately killing the deer, tracking it, any of that. I want to say the most intimidating part is the field dressing, because it's just, and I took anatomy in college. I dissected dead humans, and it's almost more intimidating than that, because you just killed this animal, and you don't want to waste any of it, and you want to do it the right way. And not that you have to do it super quick, but a lot of times it's getting dark. You may not have good light. It has to be done in a efficient fashion, I would say. And it's just, I think that really makes it intimidating. I think that's the most intimidating part of the whole hunting process, if you ask me.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised the questions that we got asked when we did the shows. The Harrisburg show. I don't know if you guys ever been to that. Now it's a Great Sportsman show. That's a 9-day show. So when I worked that show, we sold a rectifier a minute at that show. A minute. Still with nonprofit. Because it was such an inexpensive product, we were still nonprofit. Because it costs you, like $20,000 to be at that show, because it's 9 days of housing and your work, and the booths are expensive. But every guy that I talked to, every guy at every show was like, oh my God, this is it's like my worst process. I have a buddy of mine, grew up in Montana on a ranch in Montana. He's right outside of Ted Turner's ranch in Bozeman, Montana. And he's been a professional guide half of his life. And he still vomits when he field dresses. He can't, you know what I mean? Like he vomits. So we hunt together, and I'm always like, dude, I just don't want to see you throw up. I'll take care of it. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a hard process, and
if it's a little warm out, it does. You get a little bit of an odor. I mean, that's what'll get you, I think.
But and I wear, like in a couple of the videos, and again, I would get, everybody gives you guff, like everybody's more manly than you are, and everybody does everything the hard way. I would wear the synthetic gloves, the calving gloves all the way up to my arms, and then I'd wear rubber gloves over them. And guys would comment on it like, what are you doing? Why are you so sterile? You don't need to be like that. And I go, listen, I don't want my wife mad at me to have to do my laundry again. Like, because my arms would be covered in blood. I'm like, I don't want anybody being mad.
I just don't get it. Rick, you're going to get a kick out of this. I now drink from a bobber mug every episode because in the same fashion, guys are trying to give us a hard time about fishing in certain scenarios with bobbers.
Yeah. Strike indicators on fly rods. I didn't use strike indicators when I was a kid, but man, now it's like, I don't think anybody fly fishes without one.
I use one.
Yeah, I can't even see the goddamn thing if it's this big.
Whatever it is, hunting, fishing, whatever type you're doing, I'm at the point. It doesn't matter. Use the best tool for the job, or whatever tool you want to use. But if you don't want to use the best tool for the job, you have no right to like talk down to other people for choosing to use the right tool for
I
the job.
think,
It just is
yeah,
ridiculous.
and I think one of the challenges that I had, and probably one of the things that kind of got me a little twisted in a knot when I was doing the product development, and I was at all the shows and seeing the interaction with the people, was I'm like, I don't understand why you would ever be so negative towards anybody. Like, we had an incident. You guys were at the show. You saw, my son shot a 150-inch whitetail in New Jersey. Like, dude, it's a challenge with the bow. I mean, not a vertical. He shot it with a crossbow. But I had an experience where, and you guys, I'm sure you hear buddies, let it grow, or oh, well, you can't eat the horns. Why'd you shoot such a little deer? You hear that everywhere. When I was away this winter during youth hunting season, and for some reason, none of my kids have ever shot a deer during youth season, and it's just killing us, right? So I have my wife, I go, honey, you got to take Wyatt hunting. He wants to go hunting opening day. She's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, you got to take him. Do I have it? Oh, yeah, I got it.
Now she's not as experienced as you, obviously, but she has enough experience to take him, or
well, we thought she was going to be okay field dressing because she did a bunch of field dressing videos. But after my son shot it, she got to it and was like, what everybody does, like, what do I do now? And she's field dressed. She's field dressed probably like half a dozen deer on video, but she was like, she just couldn't do it. So I had to call a couple buddies. I'm like, listen, man, you got to help me out. My daughter or my son's in the woods with my wife. My wife's totally melting down. I'm like, you just got to help us out. So one of my buddies went out there, and he used the product. He knows the product. And he's like, Rick, I forgot, because he hadn't shot one in probably like 2 or 3 years, So this is the fame. Now, this is famous in our family because both of my children have shot a unicorn buck, they call. So this is the deer he shot during opening day of youth shotgun. Now, he had shot 200. So he had shot he shot this one.
Wow.
This was his second archery deer. And then he shot, this is the shed to that deer that was at the show. That's his shed from the year before that we let go. And he told me this is the best deer he ever shot. So
there you go.
So I think to bring kids into hunting and bring youth hunters out there, listen, man, you just got to drop your ego at the door. I only got him hunting the big deer because that's what I like doing. He just wants to shoot deer. I want him to shoot big deer. So, it's kind of it's a weird thing in parenting and hunting life that, like, these kids, they don't care how big the deer is. They want to experience time in the field with their dad. They want to experience time in the field, period. And now my son's goal is he wants to hunt with a vertical. He's like, Dad, I want to shoot a deer with a vertical. Now, we did shoot a deer with a vertical that we didn't recover right after he shot his first deer with the crossbow. And he's just not shooting the poundage yet to I feel like an ethical.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, with like Joe Rogan and all those guys, I can't tell you how many 50-something friends of mine now want to go hunting. Who have never hunted before.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm 40. Like I said, Joe made it easy for me. The apprentice license here in New Jersey made it easy for me.
Meat Eater's definitely adding like a popularity back to it. Like he's
and all those guys.
Like,
it's funny because you talk about I take it, if anybody mentions the word hunting and wanting to do it, I'm always the first guy. I'd be like, whatever. I got deer wherever you want me to find deer for you. I'll find deer for you. I don't care if it's an adult. I don't care if it's a kid. I've shot as many animals as I've ever wanted to shoot in my life. I just like having.
Can you find
What?
Can you find big one? Can you find big deer for me and
Yeah,
Chris?
I can. I'll as long as I'll ask Wyatt. As long as Wyatt, we have a couple that we let go. We have a couple that we're growing. I only grow them on certain spots because my son knows that like we're gonna go he's gonna do. We did some state land turkey hunting this year. He was very excited because we had to do a lot of hiking. Different than our private land turkey hunting because I can find them on the drop, because they're all roosted there and they just fly down. We shoot them, but he had to work this year and we lost. Unfortunately, Youth Day, we lost 2 birds. He shot one, rolled it, and then he missed one really close to us, like 8 yards. But that shot coming out of a turkey loaded gun is like a baseball at that point, and he just missed them.
And you're more nervous than deer hunting because you just can't move. You can't even blink.
Yeah.
I mean, it is nerve wracking, man. Holy shit!
But I mean, I have a list. I have guys. My buddy Brad Kozlowski. Brad's a wicked tuna guy. He's up in Kenny Bunkport. I took him hunting for the first time, turkey hunting. He always deer hunted, but he always wanted to turkey hunt. He texted me this morning. And he was freaking out. He's like, "Why didn't you tell me that?" He'd get all stabbed up by their spurs. So he had shot a turkey and went to go pick it up. And I guess the thing spurred the heck out of him. My phone rang this morning at, oh God, let me see, because that's what I love. I love the fact that I have a good network of friends that all. I'm just trying to see what this was. I don't know. I think it was like.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got a real good network. You could call a buddy and have him, show up and bail your wife and your son or daughter out and help them field dress when you're not around. I mean, that's awesome.
And like Brad, I took Brad's kid, Bopper's his name. I took him turkey hunting for the first time a couple of years ago, and ever since then, Brad's been up in that Kenny Bunkport area. That area in Maine is crazy with turkey. It's just crazy. We hunted there. I probably saw the most birds I've ever seen. They're just everywhere up there. Big woods, But and then I get my buddies, older kids, like in their like 16, 18, and then in their 20s after college wanting to hunt. And I do the whole process though. Like I do it with my kids. If you shoot a deer with me, I'm gonna do everything that night. So we're gonna shoot the deer, we're gonna strip it out. We're going to butcher it, and then they take it home. Like I try to make that whole process so everybody knows kind of how to handle it, and it usually works. It usually works. Most of the guys retain it and can do it on their own later.
It's like everything else, really. You start at the simplest form of something and you work your way up. And obviously, And this is the same exact thing for fishing. Just fishing is a little bit easier to teach yourself, I would say, obviously, than hunting, but it's really the exact same thing. If you take your kid, right, and you try to throw them in too deep right off the bat, you really risk kind of intimidating them, scaring them away from it, at least for a little bit. If you do like what you just said, I think you nailed it on the head. You basically do it for them. They can see it, and it's not going to be for everyone. Maybe they're not into it right away, and you got to kind of just accept that, right?
Yeah. And I don't know if my path is the best path as far as like having your kids big game hunt. I didn't big game hunt until I was 14, 15, 16, it's a process, like I always tell everybody, my daughter, she has to hunt with me once a year now. It's kind of like our default now. She's 16. It's kind of her default that she has to at least go hunting with me once a year, and she's cool about it. And we go and we sit in a ground blind, or we usually archery hunt. It's always an archery. She doesn't like the gun, unfortunately. Again, I made mistakes when she was 10. She shot a really good whitetail during 50 caliber muzzleloader season at 10, and she weighed like 60 pounds. Was not the best dad decision to take her and do that. So, you know, you have to weigh out each kid and even each adult what they can handle. I had a couple buddies I took on it. Now it was a canned duck hunt, you know, like a released duck hunt, just like pheasant, but with ducks. But my buddies called me. They're watching Joe Rogan, Meat Eater, you know, all this, and they wanted to go hunting. And I know both of them. They're not super tough guys. But I'm like, I think maybe we start out with birds. And they loved it. They had a good time. But I'm like, I don't know how they handle a deer bleeding, running. I mean, it's just, it's unfortunate. Big game could be violent, you know, like, I don't know.
It's unavoidably violent. I mean, it is violent. It's pure violence.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
You know, and you know, we're the one thing that, you know, I always share with everybody. We do, you know, in our family, and my kids, you know, they know to do it. We do an Austrian blessing. The Austrians believe that, you know, every animal has a spirit. They feed them the last feeding. So in Austria, if you ever watch all those big hunts out there, they always put those big evergreen boughs over them, where they put the holly or the sprigs pines over them. And that's like their last feeding, as they call it. And they always put something in their mouth. So my kids, on all their harvests, every picture that we have taken, they'll always have a piece of grass in their mouth. We cut a big area of grass, we feed them, we say thank you. And then, you know, the violence started, it's ended, and now we field dress and we get them out. But they, you know, I feel like my kids they clean their plate a little better than most, just because they know how it got there. Maybe, I don't know.
It's not going to be a wasted lesson, that's for sure. I mean, that I wish more of the country, for sure, had that kind of mentality when it came to, you know, food and anything in general. And I mean, it's I don't know even how to put it. Like you mentioned, like the violence, and it's not for everyone. It's just not. It's never gonna be. And,
well, there's vegetarians.
Yeah, but to me, that's that much more important. All the stuff that you do to try to help people get into it. You can't be turning away people that want to fish and hunt. You can't be looking the other way. You can't be unwilling to help. We need as many people doing hunting and fishing as possible, because if not, it's just gonna. It sounds cliche, but you know, it's gonna less and less people it's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I mean, there's, even when we were doing the product and the development of the product and running other aspects of that hunting industry out, it was amazing to see how many hunters we lose a year. And it's, I can't get into the subject on parenting other than myself and what I do for my kids. My kid will say, I want to go fishing. I don't care if I'm in the middle of doing 50 important things. Everything drops and we go do whatever he wants to do, as long as it's outside. I don't think all people work that way. I think that
no.
I think it's easier to park a kid in front of a TV or a computer screen and to not engage with them all the time. It's an easy out. My son will have 4 or 5 of his buddies. We just got a $200 aluminum john boat, 12 foot, 40 years old, with a 40-year-old motor, for $200. My son was on the river on Saturday and he had a hard time. He was with oars only because he's actually taking his license today. He's taking his test today for boater operation. He couldn't paddle it because the wind was so bad on the Mascon River, and he couldn't paddle. He doesn't know how to row a boat really that good, and he got all discombobulated with his buddy. He was crying, I said, dude, listen, calm down. I'm going to come down. I went down to the beach. I'm like, I was at home. I went down to the boat launch and I go, listen, you're going to paddle to those pilings. And I said, and you're going to rope off around that piling. And you're going to be right in the drift of the current. And just let the lead out till you're in the current and just stay tied there and fish. An hour later, they call me. They're like, we got dinner tonight. Dad, guess who's got dinner tonight? And I'm like, but if I was the guy who just let him play video games with his other buddies, that's what he would have done. He would take the easier course. But it's hard to get kids to do stuff like that. But in how we raised them in the beginning, it's like you have to do it, period. It doesn't matter. We didn't ask. There wasn't like, do you want to go in the woods hunting? It was like, you went hunting. It's, and they learned to like it.
Yeah. And I mean, and like you said, you have to do it. You have to, any living being is going to take the easy way out if it's offered to them. It's not natural for, living organisms to always have an easy way out. When they have it, they're going to take it. It's just natural. So what people don't understand is they're like, oh, my kid doesn't like this, doesn't like that. They want, of course they're going to choose the easy way if it's offered to them. You can't, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to tell parents how to raise their kids, but I mean, it's just natural, like biology.
But when you see a kid, like you guys fish,
easy way out.
You guys fish, you take a kid fishing, you see what a kid does when he catches a sunny. Oh my God, he's got a sunny, he's got a bluegill. They're like, but they're pumped. They're pumped.
It don't matter.
And it's like that with deer hunting, with pheasant hunting, with turkey hunting, with duck hunting. It goes across the board. When you see how much enjoyment there is in that little moment, maybe 3 hours of walking in the woods, and then they have that experience. That's why, for me, I still get really excited about my own harvests, but I haven't, I've shot a few animals over the past couple of years, but I don't want to say that they're anticlimactic compared to the ones that I've been with my buddies that have shot their first animals, but they are. I mean, I don't want to say I'm calloused or jaded, but I really get more enjoyment out of, like you guys say, well, you want to shoot a big buck? I'm sure I can probably find something good.
Oh, okay.
And we'll go. We're like, yeah, that was pretty fun. I didn't have to do it. I'll make you field dress it. It's
Joe's gonna steal one of your kids' big bucks now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whatever. It's all good.
No,
And we don't have any, and that's the other thing is there's no ownership in anything that I do when I'm in the field. That's like Ed, Ed Elo, you had on, Ed, he shoots a lot of animals, man, and he's just totally into it. But he doesn't care. He didn't care if he's shooting a 6-point or an 8-point. Now he's got a 180 something inch deer in New Jersey. But that guy will shoot a 6-point and be genuinely excited about it.
And fishing's the same way. Like, we don't have any records or anything, but we catch a lot of nice fish. I could go out, catch a 50-inch muskie one day, and a couple days later, I'll go fishing and catch a 14-inch yellow perch, and I'll be ecstatic. I mean, it's all relative. Like, if I have an hour to fish and I'm just going to, let me hit this bluegill pond, and I'm, that's what I'm doing. I'm fishing for bluegills because I have an hour.
Yeah. I did a booth, and Eichler's the big, archery guy, and some guys like him, some guys don't, but Eichler, he's as happy shooting a spike bull as he is a 6x6. And I've watched some videos of him, and the guides are like, please do not shoot this spike bull. Do you see the bull behind him? And he runs an arrow right through the spike. And you're like, and that dude is throwing his bow in the air, running around. Like, he's just genuinely excited. And I think that we got away from that a little bit, like the enjoyment aspect, the social aspect. That's why I like the bird hunting a lot, because like even turkey hunting, like I could go walk for like a couple hours and bullshit with my buddy who I haven't talked to in a while, and kind of walk and goof around, be like, dude, do you believe that bird just ran away? Like, but it's not as serious as deer is, like where you're intense the whole time, So I think that social aspect comes into play for me, and I think that's why I like taking other people hunting now more than I do me hunting myself. Like for me to go now in the woods and set a stand and climb a tree by myself, I love it. I just don't know if I have as much enjoyment as I do as when I'm with somebody else now. Just see me, just course in life, but it seems like I really still like being in the field with other people,
Yeah.
And just so you know, like, I found this really cool because Ed said the same exact thing that you said. You guys love helping other people. You don't turn people away. Like if someone reached out to us and said, "Hey, that guest Rick you had, he was awesome. I had this question about hunting." I send it to you. You're answering this guy. Like you guys are actually willing to help anyone who has any kind of questions, help someone get more into the sport of hunting, fishing, whatever it is. That's the coolest part.
Yeah, and Ed again was a single dad. He raised his kids on his own, 2 kids. Evan, his son, I took for his first turkey hunt. He was slated. I had one of my coworkers' sons wanted to go. I had Ed's son slated to be the youth hunter that day, and we were up north at the time. Birds were not down here yet; they were still up in like Frankfurt and Lake Apacong area, but we didn't have a lot of birds down south yet. It was like 20 years ago, and Ed had asked if Evan could go hunt, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take him. And but I had another tow along, another kid with us, and Evan, we just had an epic day in the field. Evan got a beautiful bird, and then my coworker's son, after he hunted with us, is like, "Can I shoot one?" And I'm like, "We'll see if we can get you on one." And the following weekend, we were able to get him on one, and there's nothing better than that. It's just and like part of my that Never Without brand that we originally had. I still have everything active. I just haven't really supported anything on the sales side. But like I said, in the redevelopment side of the Never Without, and one of my buddies had said best, he always used to say, I'm never without Rick. I just call Rick. So that's part of that brand unit. I'd like to run out more on a digital side or a informational platform.
What if you made up a kit with all those modifications and inventions and stuff, and you also put your number in there like a business card? And
yeah, I actually was gonna try to think a little bit bigger on the digital side, just because I do have access and exposure to some people that are some pretty heavy hitters in the industry on the digital side. So like I would love to come up with a forum where like between fishermen and hunter, just like how on X Maps is, or Hunt Stand, some of these other sites out there, where they offer information for free, where it's unbiased. I say with my son, we go down to the beach, like everything we do is organic. So I don't fish a lot, but when I was a kid, I fished a lot, and I grew up in Manasquan. I grew up on the river. I grew up crabbing, fishing. I teach my kid how to go get bloodworms, how to catch crabs, how to get green crabs to be able to blackfish. Like, I think there's a need in both fishing and hunting industry for a community-based program that is people wanting to give information. Like, hey, I run down to the beach here, and there's these Portuguese guys fishing off the pier on the Manasquan, catching blowfish. I'm like, I didn't even know you could still catch blowfish. And they're out there like with this little jig thing catching 50 blowfish. I'm like, man, I tried it. I still haven't caught one. If those dudes had some kind of informational network there of where to fish for them, what time to fish for them, I probably would. Just like blackfishing here, in our canal, like we're in Point Pleasant, on the Manasquan. Point Pleasant Canal goes all the way through to Barnegat Bay. There's certain times of the year that those estuaries get crazy. Right now, there's bluefish on the river, and it's crazy. Bluefish in striped bass every incoming tide, all the way back to the Route 70 bridge. If that information's out there, it might get more people enjoying it, like, and nationally, like, where's there a good pond to go fish?
It's kind of, and I mean, it's kind of what we're doing with the fish, with the NJ multi-species. I mean, we made a Facebook group, we made an Instagram, we made a Facebook page. Joe made a TikTok. I don't even know. You even use that anymore, Joe?
Yeah.
We made all this. We made all this stuff. It's not because we like social media. I don't really think we like it at all. But the one aspect of it we do like is that you can build a community and you have access to everyone, and everyone has access to you. And through that, you can pass information. And the tricky part is, here's the thing, right? You can't just put everything out there 100%. Like, I can't go fishing and say, here's the coordinates where I was fishing. Here's what I was doing. Here's what I was using, because you get the wrong kind of people taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
And what we've been trying to do
is it's a slippery slope, it's
right. And we've been trying to kind of walk that line. And I think we've been doing it pretty successfully, where you help people. You help the right people, because the right people are going to ask the right questions. They're not going to message you and say, hey, where were you? Oh, well, they're going to talk to you about fishing, and you're going to know the difference between the people that deserve help and don't, I guess.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of harsh, but you can't just, it's like society. You can't just there's poor people, let's just throw money at them and hope they use it the right way. No, because some of those people are going to go and buy drugs with it, right?
Yeah.
Some of them do need it, and some of them are going to use it. But there's got to be, we feel like there's a right way.
It's a hard line, but it's still, like, I've taken guys that I'm like on state land, properties that are state access, so like special permit access, like your Parks Department, and I got a couple new hunters. I'm like, listen, man, just pretend you got a blindfold on, and I'm taking you where you can't know where you are, because I don't want to really come here and have you be here.
Yeah.
I bring them there once, and like 8 days later, there's a tree stand to my left. I'm like, what the hell's that? And then I'll see one of the guys that I took hunting in the tree stand. I'm like, okay, I'll burn that spot out, and then, but I mean, that's the inevitability of, human nature, and, but
and I get it, and stuff like that happens, and it jades guys, and then they don't want to help anyone.
But I don't think it has to be on like the geographical coordinates, but the information of a broad area. So like, like if you took, okay, we're fishing the Manasquan River in May, and you just pull that up and you're like, oh yeah, this is what you should use, this is what you can use, just even hunting. Like, okay, you're in New Jersey, and and I see the forums, but there's no real easy, like, clean line, because it's a lot of guys just giving. If it was a better aggregate, like where it would refine the like the guy poo-pooing what time of year is and isn't the right time of year to be using certain calls in certain areas. I don't know. There's a complexity there, but a simplicity there. Like, go crabbing. You say crabbing to somebody, and they're like, I don't know how to crab. You're like, you get a net and you get a freaking hunk of chicken and you throw it in salt water. But people don't even know that, and it's not as readily available information as you would think it is. But in Point Pleasant, I think we got 16 beach accesses in Point Pleasant Borough on the river. Every one of them you can crab from. Every one of them you can striped bass fish from. Every one of them you can fluke fish from. And there's a lot of guys there. And when I go down to the beach here, where I am on the edge of the canal, there's always a fisherman there complaining that there's a guy from Pennsylvania here.
Yeah, well,
I'm like, yeah, but it's a good place to be. But there's a lot of fish there too. So it's not like we're elbow to elbow like you see in freshwater streams,
Yeah, guys just don't get it. You can't be totally shut off from this community, and I hope, to our point here, that guys are using the stuff that we're doing to build connections with each other, and I know they are. I just hope it keeps happening, it keeps growing. But I think we've taken up enough of your time, Rick. I think your philosophies are awesome. We share a lot of the same philosophies when it comes to hunting and fishing. And I hope
if someone wants to look up your stuff, Rick, is there a place that they
we'll
look?
have it live again. Right now, we're gonna probably do more of like an Amazon fulfillment kind of thing coming up. We had our website. It's just like I said. My product was pretty inexpensive, which made it really difficult to be really profitable, and especially the way we ran it out. So when I do have it live and sellable again, and like I said, I'm going to launch it with the kids just to have them on board with it to do the youth tutorial videos. Then I'll let you guys know, and we can get access to that.
All right, awesome. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on the NJ Multifish podcast. We appreciate your time. Hopefully, we do get to do a project together in the future. That would be really cool. But thank you.
We would love to. Anything you jump started to do anything like that, we'd love to help you promote it and anything. I mean,
yeah,
you're totally welcome to use anything.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, and like I said, anything that I will do moving forward will be 100%. It's going to be a youth hunter, field dress, and their deer, like just to make it so that everybody understands, you can do it, but it's a process.
Awesome.
Yeah. And you do the same thing with fish, cleaning fish too. Same.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. All right, man.
Take care, Rick.
All right, thanks.
Got to hit the. Okay, so Eddie Mackin is continuing to run the red eye trips. Basically, call Eddie Mackin, tell him your availability, and he will wait until another person calls and tells him his availability. And when you're paired up with someone else, you'll go fishing. You, Eddie, and the other person. Bring your own stuff. It's $135 a person. It's a two-person maximum. It's just you, one other guy, and Eddie. And you could jump out on the night bite right now. It's on fire.
Yeah, not only is the fishing on fire, but to the point of what we've been talking about a lot of this episode, what better way is it to, meet a random person and make, like, if you don't have that many friends that fish, jump on here. Now you've got Eddie Mackin who fishes, and you got this other guy who you're going to meet that. I mean, there you go. You just made two fishing buddies.
Yeah, that's true. And if anyone's ever curious as to how me and Chris met, I think we probably met on NJFishing.com's Facebook page. So that's another one. NJFishing.com, 27 years is the #1 resource in freshwater and saltwater fishing in New Jersey. I met Chris because of that site. Chris has tons of friends he fishes with from that site. I have friends through that site. That site basically started everything. Check that site out. It's completely free. Anyone can sign up.
Yeah, and you gotta make relationships in fishing. You gotta make relationships in hunting. It's just it's not. You're not able to reach the full potential and enjoy the two sports to their full potentials if you don't have at least a small network of like-minded people.
A fisherman's usually only as good as the contacts in his cell phone, realistically. Most of the time he needs some sort of information.
You can't be everywhere at once. You can't know everything. I know some guys that think they do, but guess what?
Yeah, we know them too. It's too late for them. Who's the guest for next week? Tomorrow, if you're watching this episode, tomorrow's the gambler trip. So if you're going on the gambler trip, that's tomorrow. The boat sails at 8 a.m. The website asks you to be there 1 hour before the boat leaves. I highly doubt I'll follow that, but I'll be there early.
Let's make sure there's a post up so everyone knows. But just to also touch on that, we had a lot of guys after the fact, after the boat was full, like weeks later, just recently. Oh, what's this trip? Can I get on? Like, how did you not know about it? You guys, if you want to be a part of this stuff, you gotta follow our stuff so that when we post it, it pops up and you see it. You got to check in there and you got to look. We're always doing something. We're always
and a lot of people like thought, oh, I'll have time, and I kind of thought too, like, yeah, there's time. The Gambler sold out in about 17 minutes, so if we post something and you're interested in doing it, just sign up for it right away because it's going to sell out. It's just going to.
Yeah, please make sure you're following our stuff so that you get the, click the alerts button or whatever you want to do if you're interested in getting in on these things because they close up fast. I mean, it wasn't 17 minutes, but it really was. It was like
it was fast.
It was even a week. It was a couple of days.
It wasn't. It wasn't even a week. And now we're 6 weeks later. People are asking me for tickets. I can't. It's all boats full.
I know. So best we can do is try to do something else again in a couple of weeks or a month or so. And all I can do is say, make sure you're ready to jump on it.
The Yeti cooler that was won by Oliver Round from Multi-Species Mayhem raised about $800. That was donated to Scott Tarnowski. So thank you very much to everyone that participated in that raffle. Scott really appreciates it. He was overwhelmed by the donation. Carly Tarnowski, Scott's daughter, is still running a GoFundMe page for Scott. If you donate to the GoFundMe, you get a T-shirt. The T-shirt's pretty cool. If you want to check out Carly Tarnowski's Facebook page, you can see how to donate to Scott's GoFundMe. And Jigging World donated us an inshore. It's Tackle World donated us a Jigging World rod. Like Jigging World is the brand, Tackle World is the store. So Tackle World donated a Jigging World inshore rod for the Gambler. It's a nice rod as a prize. Thank you to Jigging World for giving us that. We're not sure how we're going to give that away yet exactly, but someone's going to win that tomorrow on the Gambler somehow.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we don't know how we're going to do it yet, but
it could be a raffle. It could be first keeper. It could be last keeper. It could be
whatever.
something.
Like everyone on the boat's going to have a chance to win that rod. We're going to bring a box of gear that's made up already in various sizes. If anyone doesn't want to pay shipping on the stuff or pick it up at the at Deuce's little factory over there, we'll have it there, for sale, whatever. And it's gonna be a hell of a time. I mean,
it is gonna be a hell of a time. All right, we're gonna be back next week.
Our guest next week, because you cut me off just real quick, is Doug Edmond. He is a charter guide up in Cape Cod.
Oh, I remember him from Instagram. Yeah, we have a Cape Cod charter captain. He seems cool. He contacted us. He wanted to come on the podcast. Seems like a cool destination trip if you wanted to saltwater fish somewhere else. So we're going to talk to him next week.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of similarities between the two fisheries. I think it'll be a real cool discussion in that aspect as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to him, and we'll also have the Gambler to talk about the whole thing. I'm sure there'll be many stories from the Gambler. So we will be back.
Yeah, I'm actually scared of what kind of videos are going to surface from that.
Yeah, okay. So that's it for tonight. We will be back next week, guys. Suffer for the fish.
You took my line?
I tried to. I don't have a coffee mug, though, so I'm not as good.
Yeah, shut up, Joe. Guys, keep suffering for those fish.
There you go. There it is.